cult of obedience, what really happened inside the NXIVM Sex Slavery Ring. Before we dive in, kindly hit the subscribe button and let us know where you are watching from in the comment. It started with a seminar, a smile, promise to change your life. NXIVM wasn't a cult, at least that's what they told you. It was a personal development company, a program built to unlock your full potential, to make you stronger, smarter, fearless. People paid thousands to join, doctors, lawyers, Hollywood actors, even billionaires. But behind the smiles, behind the golden words about growth and self-improvement, there was something darker, something rotten. NXIVM wasn't a path to enlightenment. It was a trap, a psychological cage. And at the center of it all was one man, Keith Raniere. He called himself Vanguard, a self-proclaimed genius with an IQ so high, followers whispered it like scripture. A man who said he could reprogram your mind, who promised to erase fear, anxiety, guilt. Raniere wore gym clothes most of the time. He spoke softly, smiled often. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He didn't have to. His power wasn't loud, it was hypnotic. He made people want to obey him. The story of NXIVM began in Albany, New York, in the late 1990s. Raniere and a woman named Nancy Salzman founded it together. Nancy was a nurse and a self-help coach. People called her Prefect. They built NXIVM as a self-improvement company. Executive Success Programs. That was the official name. They held workshops. They used buzzwords like ethical behavior, integration, and human potential. It sounded harmless, even noble, but it wasn't long before people began noticing strange rules. Students had to wear colored sashes to indicate their rank. They bowed to their leaders. They used titles like Vanguard and Prefect. Felt like a secret society. And in many ways it was. For new recruits, the classes were intense. 12-hour days. No breaks. No phones. They were told it was all part of their growth. The program drilled one message deep into their minds. You are weak. You must obey to be strong. It was psychological conditioning disguised as motivation. Every failure was your fault. Every doubt meant you weren't integrated. People who questioned Raniere were told they were resisting their own enlightenment. Dissent was weakness. Loyalty was strength. He called it rational inquiry. But what it really was control. And Raniere's influence spread fast. By 2003, NXIVM was expanding across the United States and Canada. Its most devoted followers began recruiting others. Friends, family, celebrities. One of the most famous recruits was actress Allison Mack from Smallville. She was young, charismatic, believed in Raniere's vision completely. To outsiders, she became the face of NXIVM. To insiders, she was Raniere's lieutenant. Underneath the smiling photos and glowing testimonials, Raniere was building something else. Something secret. Something designed not to empower but to enslave. It started quietly in 2015. Raniere created a new inner circle, a group of women who pledged total obedience. He called it DOS. It stood for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, Latin for master over slave women. To join, women had to give collateral, nude photos, confessions of crimes, secrets that could destroy their lives if leaked. They were told this was a sign of trust, a symbol of commitment, but really it was blackmail. Once inside DOS, women had to submit to strict rules. They couldn't eat more than 800 calories a day. They had to text their master for permission to do anything, eat, sleep, leave the house. If they disobeyed, they were punished. They were branded, literally. A cauterizing pen burned a symbol into their skin. They were told it represented the 4 elements. But hidden inside that design were 2 letters, KR. Keith Raniere's initials. For years, no one on the outside knew. NXIVM was too well protected, too well connected. Wealthy families funded it. Influential lawyers defended it. Members who tried to leave were stalked, threatened, silenced. But cracks were forming. A few brave women started speaking out. They'd escaped DOS. They'd seen the truth. and they were ready to tell the world what really happened inside. In 2017, the New York Times published an article that shattered NXIVM's perfect image. The headline read, "Inside a secretive group where women are branded." The story exploded. TV networks picked it up. Podcasts dissected it. Documentaries followed. Suddenly, NXIVM wasn't a self-help company anymore. It was a cult that branded, starved, and enslaved women. And at the center of it, Keith Raniere, the vanguard. He vanished right after the story broke. Rumors said he fled the country. The FBI launched an investigation. Search warrants were issued. Bank accounts were frozen. For months, he was a ghost. Then, in March 2018, agents found him hiding in a luxury villa in Mexico. He was arrested. His followers, some still loyal, some terrified, watched as their master was taken away. Allison Mack was arrested soon after. So was Lauren Salzman, Nancy's daughter. One by one, the pillars of NXIVM collapsed. The case shocked the world. How could educated, intelligent people fall under such control? How could women willingly submit to slavery? How could a man convince others to brand themselves with his initials and call it empowerment? The answers were disturbing, because Keith Raniere didn't use violence. He used belief. He made people believe they were changing the world. He told them obedience was freedom, that suffering was growth, and when you're desperate to belong, when you crave meaning, you'll follow anyone who promises to give it to you, even if that person leads you straight into hell. By the time authorities fully uncovered what NXIVM had done, it was too late for some. Careers were ruined, families torn apart, lives shattered. Yet, even then, some followers refused to believe it. They said Raniere was framed, that the media twisted the truth, that the branding was voluntary. They gathered outside courthouses, holding signs, chanting his name. They weren't just followers anymore. They were believers. That's what made NXIVM so dangerous. It wasn't built on violence. It was built on faith. A faith that corrupted everything it touched. When the FBI raided NXIVM's headquarters in Albany, they found hard drives, emails, and recordings. Thousands of them. Evidence of blackmail. Lists of slaves and their masters. Graphic images. Detailed rules written by Raniere himself. Each file revealed another layer of horror. There were lists of punishments, orders to isolate members from family, commands to brand women as a rite of passage. He built a pyramid of obedience. Each woman controlled the one beneath her. Each slave feared her master. And at the top sat Raniere, a man worshipped like a god, who, in truth, was nothing more than a predator with a following. But the question that haunted investigators was simple. Why didn't anyone stop it sooner? NXIVM had operated for nearly 2 decades. There had been warnings. Former members had spoken out before. But money, influence, and manipulation kept Raniere safe. He had powerful allies. The Bronfman sisters, heiresses to the Seagram liquor fortune, donated millions to NXIVM. They funded lawsuits against anyone who tried to expose the group. They used wealth to silence victims. NXIVM wasn't just a cult. It was a machine, a network of money, fear, and control. And for years, it worked. As Raniere sat in a detention cell awaiting trial, the media frenzy grew louder. Survivors began to share their stories. The things they'd been forced to do, the pain, the humiliation, the brainwashing, before the fame, before the cult, before the name Vanguard. Keith Raniere was just a boy, a quiet, calculating boy who learned early how to control people. He grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Born in 1960, an only child, his mother, Vera, was a ballroom dance teacher. His father, James, was an advertising executive. Keith was intelligent, charming, but there was something off. Even as a child, he manipulated people. Neighbors remembered him as strange, a kid who liked to play mind games. When he was 8, he overheard his parents arguing. His mother shouted, "You're just like your father. You use people." Keith smiled. He took it as a compliment. By high school, Raniere had already started experimenting with control. He'd date multiple girls at once. He'd tell each one, "You're special. Don't tell anyone." Then he'd watch them compete for his attention. It wasn't love. It was power. In college, that pattern continued. He studied physics and math at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Graduated in 1982, but what he really studied was people. He read psychology books, neuroscience, philosophy, even hypnotism. He became obsessed with the idea that human behavior could be programmed, that minds could be rewritten. He once told a girlfriend, "I can make anyone do what I want." She laughed, but he wasn't joking. In the early 1990s, Raniere started his first business, Consumers Byline Incorporated. It was supposed to be a discount membership program. Members paid a fee and got access to lower prices on goods. But in reality, it was a pyramid scheme. He promised wealth, freedom, success. Sound familiar? Tens of thousands joined. Money flowed in. But soon, investigators noticed something. The profits weren't real. The structure was illegal. In 1996, New York State filed a lawsuit against Raniere. He paid a settlement. He was banned from running another pyramid scheme. His empire collapsed overnight. But Keith didn't stop. He learned from it. He saw that money wasn't the ultimate power, people were. He just needed a new product. Something that couldn't be shut down by the government. Something harder to trace. So he chose self-improvement. In 1998, he met Nancy Salzman. She was everything he needed. Charismatic, confident, a respected therapist and executive coach. Nancy believed in human potential. She believed she could help people overcome their fears. Raniere saw her not as a partner, but as a tool. Together, they created NXIVM, a program for executive success. It sounded safe, professional, almost scientific. Nancy ran the seminars. Keith stayed behind the curtain, the mysterious genius. The vanguard. Students paid thousands to attend workshops. They learned techniques to conquer fear. But slowly, those lessons became something else. They became obedience training. Raniere didn't just want money. He wanted followers, disciples, people who would worship him. He once said, "The highest form of love is obedience." That became NXIVM's hidden doctrine. Inside the classes, participants were told to confess their weaknesses, to share their secrets, to reveal their deepest fears. Raniere called it unburdening. But it wasn't therapy, it was leverage. He recorded everything, stored it, used it. When someone tried to leave NXIVM, he'd threaten to expose their secrets. Or worse, turn their friends against them. His charm made it easy. Raniere spoke softly. He looked harmless. He used words like empowerment, ethics, and consciousness. He never raised his voice. He didn't have to. He created a structure that ensured loyalty. Colored sashes indicated rank. You started at white. You worked your way up. Orange, yellow, green. Each level came with a new title, a new privilege. But what members didn't realize was that every step up was another step into control. Each promotion came with more secrets shared, more trust placed in the system, more dependency on Keith. They weren't climbing a ladder. They were descending into a trap. Behind closed doors, Raniere's private life was even more disturbing. He surrounded himself with women, dozens. Many of them were his students, some as young as 15. He promised them spiritual awakening, but what he really wanted was ownership. He controlled their diets, their sleep, their sex lives. He called it purification, but it was exploitation. He told one woman, "Your pain is your pathway to growth." Then he starved her until she fainted. He convinced others that jealousy was weakness. So when he slept with multiple women, they had to accept it or face punishment. He preached freedom from attachment. But the only one free was him. By 2005, NXIVM had grown into a full-fledged empire. There were centers across the US, Mexico, and Canada. Members were encouraged to recruit more people. Recruitment meant rank. Rank meant approval. Approval meant worth. Raniere stayed in the shadows, but his influence was everywhere. He rarely appeared in public. He preferred late-night walks with followers, hours of quiet conversation that felt spiritual, but were psychological traps. One former member said, "You didn't realize you were being brainwashed. You thought you were becoming enlightened." That was Raniere's genius. He made manipulation look like love. Then came the celebrities. Kristen Kruk, Allison Mack, both actresses from Smallville. Kruk joined first, believing NXIVM was a professional coaching group. She eventually left. Mack stayed, and she fell deeper than anyone could have imagined. Keith called her his golden child. She believed she was chosen to help women unlock their power. What she didn't know was that she'd become a recruiter for a sex cult. He gave her a mission: create a women's empowerment group, train them to serve their higher purpose. She did exactly that. She named it DOS. Inside DOS, every woman had a master. Every master had slaves. Each slave had to provide collateral nude photos, damaging secrets, confessions of crimes. That collateral was used to keep them silent, to keep them obedient. Raniere pretended he wasn't involved. He said DOS was a women-led movement. But the truth came out later. Every command, every rule, every punishment traced back to him. He wrote the DOS handbook himself. He decided who got branded. He decided who could eat, sleep, or see their families. It was absolute control. His inner circle worshipped him. They called him the smartest man in the world. Some said he had supernatural energy. They said he could heal through touch. Others claimed his eyes could see your soul. It sounds ridiculous now, but when you're trapped inside his world, logic stops working. Fear replaces it. Devotion replaces it. He made people believe he was the only path to enlightenment. Leaving meant spiritual death, and that's what kept them in line. That's what kept DOS alive. But not everyone stayed silent. A few women began to see the cracks. They saw the lies, the manipulation, the fear. One of them was Sarah Edmondson. She'd been a loyal member for 12 years, top recruiter, until the day she was branded. She'd been told it was a symbol of strength, a secret ritual for elite members. But as she lay there, the smell of burning flesh filling the room, she realized this wasn't empowerment. It was submission. When she looked at the design later, she saw it Keith Raniere. That's when everything shattered. Sarah went to the media. She reached out to the New York Times, told them everything: the branding, the starvation, the blackmail, the sex slavery. When the story broke, NXIVM's facade collapsed. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. March 2018. The man who called himself Vanguard was finally in handcuffs. Keith Raniere, the so-called genius behind NXIVM, was arrested in a Mexican villa. But his followers didn't believe it. They called it a conspiracy. They said the government was afraid of enlightened people, that Keith was misunderstood. Even as he sat in a federal detention center in Brooklyn, women still whispered his name like a prayer. They said he would rise again. They said he had been betrayed by the weak. But some of those same women were ready to tell the world the truth. The first was Sarah Edmondson, the woman who had once been NXIVM's shining star. She wasn't a nobody. She was an actress, a respected recruiter. She'd introduced hundreds to the executive success programs. But now, she stood before cameras and told the truth. She'd been branded like cattle, her flesh burned, her body marked forever with Keith Raniere's initials. She told reporters, "I thought I was joining a sisterhood. I didn't know I was joining a cult." That statement exploded across the internet, and the story that NXIVM had hidden for decades began to unravel. The FBI formed a task force. The charges multiplied: sex trafficking, forced labor, conspiracy, racketeering, possession of child exploitation materials. But NXIVM wasn't just one man. It was an empire built on silence. To destroy it, investigators needed insiders, women who had lived it, survived it, and were brave enough to expose it. And that's where they found their witnesses. Lauren Salzman, daughter of Nancy Salzman, co-founder of NXIVM. For 20 years, She had been Raniere's loyal servant and his lover. She believed he was a philosopher, a visionary, until the day she realized he was a predator. When the FBI came knocking, she broke. Tears streaming down her face, she said, "I thought I was helping women. I was helping him destroy them." Her confession became one of the prosecution's most powerful weapons. The trial began in May 2019. The courtroom buzzed with cameras, reporters, and victims. Everyone wanted to see the man who had fooled Hollywood, millionaires, and even politicians. Raniere walked in wearing a beige prison jumpsuit, hair tied back, calm, unbothered, almost smug. He smiled at the gallery, at the women who still supported him. And when the judge asked if he understood the charges, he said simply, "Yes, Your Honor. No fear, no remorse, just calculation." The prosecutors didn't waste time. They painted Raniere as a master manipulator, a man who built a multi-million-dollar pyramid of obedience, a man who branded women like cattle, a man who destroyed families in the name of growth. And to prove it, they had evidence: emails, text messages, audio recordings. In one, Keith could be heard discussing the branding ritual. His voice calm, cold. "Do you think the person being branded should be completely naked and held to the table like a sacrifice?" he asked. The courtroom went silent. You could hear the shiver run through the audience. Even the jurors looked horrified. Next came the witnesses, women who had once called him Vanguard. Now they called him what he really was, a monster. First was India Oxenberg, daughter of actress Catherine Oxenberg, who had fought tirelessly to get her daughter out. India stood before the jury, trembling but strong. She said, "He told me I was broken, that only he could fix me." She described being starved, deprived of sleep, forced to send nude photos as collateral. She said she was told obedience was love. Her voice cracked when she said, "I believed him. I believed I was becoming better. I didn't know I was disappearing." Then came Nicole, a former actress, one of the women branded with Raniere's initials. She described how she was blindfolded and tied down while another woman burned the mark into her skin. She said she screamed, "I can smell my skin burning." And in that moment, she realized she was trapped. She said Raniere later told her the pain made her stronger, that her scars were proof of loyalty. The jury stared in disbelief. Some cried, others turned away. This wasn't self-improvement. It was psychological warfare. But perhaps the most shocking testimony came from Lauren Salzman herself, a woman who had once enforced the rules, now standing against the man she worshipped. She told the court how Keith ordered her to keep another woman locked in a room for 2 years, a punishment for disobedience. The woman wasn't allowed to leave. She was fed scraps. Her hair fell out. Her spirit broke. Lauren said she believed she was helping her grow. Her voice cracked when she said, "I thought I was saving her. I was torturing her." The courtroom was silent. Even Keith stopped smiling. Prosecutors revealed everything: the financial scams, the sexual manipulation, the secret recordings, the blackmail. Raniere's empire was a house of horrors disguised as a leadership school. They showed emails where Keith ordered women to lose weight to purify their minds. He demanded they send daily confession reports about their thoughts. If they expressed doubt, they were punished. Every word he spoke was a test. Every punishment, a lesson. Every scar, a signature. But Raniere still believed he was untouchable. When his lawyers took the floor, they said the women were consenting adults. That NXIVM was no different from a self-help organization. That the branding was a voluntary experience. Keith sat there, head high, smirking at his victims. He thought he could outtalk everyone. He always could. He even told the court, "Everything I did was to help them. I loved them." The words hung in the air like poison. The prosecution didn't buy it. Neither did the jury. They saw the manipulation. They heard the recordings. They read the texts. One message from Allison Mack to Keith said, "I just want to be the best slave possible." Another read, "She cried, but I told her it was for her own good. It wasn't empowerment. It was obedience. And it all led back to one man. In June 2019, after 6 weeks of testimony, the jury reached a verdict. They found Keith Raniere guilty on all counts: sex trafficking, forced labor, racketeering, child exploitation. He showed no emotion. He didn't flinch. He didn't cry. He just stared straight ahead. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, he said quietly, "I am innocent." Then he smiled, a faint, satisfied smile, as if he still believed he'd won. But outside the courthouse, the world erupted. Victims cried. Families cheered. Survivors hugged. For the first time in decades, the spell was broken. Yet even in victory, something felt incomplete. Because not everyone escaped Keith's influence. Some still defended him online. Some still called him Vanguard. One loyalist even said on camera, "The government can imprison him, but they can't imprison truth." It was chilling. Proof that his grip on their minds hadn't vanished. It had just gone underground. Months later, during sentencing, survivors returned to face him one last time. Their words cut deeper than any punishment. Sarah Edmondson said, "You stole years of my life, but I got them back when I spoke your name out loud." India Oxenberg said, "You taught me to obey, but I've learned to think again." Then came Nicole, voice shaking but defiant. "You said pain made me strong. You were right, because I survived you." The room erupted in tears. Even the judge paused, visibly shaken. When Keith finally spoke, he didn't apologize. He said he was a victim of false narratives, that the women were misguided. The courtroom was silent. The gavel came down. The sentence was final. 120 years. Keith Raniere, the man who once called himself Vanguard, was now a prisoner of the United States government. But outside those walls, the real battle had only just begun. Because when a cult collapses, its ruins don't disappear. They scatter, they infect, they haunt. In the days after the verdict, headlines exploded across the nation. Sex cult leader sentenced to life. Hollywood actress pleads guilty. NXIVM, the cult that branded women. Every news station ran the story. CNN, the New York Times, Rolling Stone. Millions tuned in, their jaws clenched, asking the same question. How did this happen? How did smart, successful people become slaves? The answer wasn't simple, because NXIVM didn't look like a cult. It looked like success. It looked like empowerment. It looked like family. And that's what made it so dangerous. Sarah Edmondson couldn't escape the spotlight. She became the face of the survivors. Her story of branding, betrayal, and awakening shocked even veteran journalists. She said in one interview, "I used to recruit people into NXIVM. I thought I was helping them find purpose, but I was helping Keith build his prison." Her honesty inspired thousands, but it also made her a target. She received hate messages, threats. Former members accused her of turning on her teacher. That's the twisted legacy of NXIVM. Even in truth, there was guilt. Even in freedom, there was fear. In the months that followed, more women came forward. They wanted to tell their stories, but they also wanted to understand them. What had happened to their minds? How had they been broken, piece by piece, until obedience felt like love? Experts began studying the case. Psychologists called it a masterclass in coercive control. A perfect example of psychological slavery. Dr. Janja Lalick, a cult expert, said, "Raniere didn't use guns or threats. He used shame. He made people believe they were choosing their own chains. That's how NXIVM thrived. Not through fear, through faith." But while the survivors tried to rebuild, the cult's shadow didn't fade. It morphed. It adapted. Raniere still had loyalists, women who believed he was innocent, who said the trial was rigged by the media, who claimed the witnesses had been brainwashed. They called themselves the Loyalists. They met secretly online. They discussed continuing the mission. Some even organized public demonstrations. One night, outside the Brooklyn prison where Raniere was held, they danced. Yes, danced. To music, holding candles, smiling. They said it was a peaceful protest. They called it dancing for freedom. It was surreal, a cult that refused to die. Among them was Nikki Klein, a former actress and longtime NXIVM member. She still called Keith her mentor. She still called DOS, the secret branding group, a beautiful sisterhood. When reporters asked if she regretted anything, she said, "No, everything I did was my choice." But the world wasn't convinced. They saw a woman still trapped, still under his spell, even with the bars between them. Meanwhile, the survivors faced another storm, the media machine. TV networks scrambled to get the story. Netflix, HBO, Lifetime. Everyone wanted a piece of NXIVM. In 2020, The Vow premiered on HBO. Raw, emotional, unfiltered. It followed the survivors as they tried to make sense of the madness. Audiences couldn't look away. Every episode peeled back another layer of manipulation. Every interview revealed how Keith turned idealists into prisoners. But not everyone liked the spotlight. Some survivors said the documentaries reopened wounds. They felt exposed, judged, because when your trauma becomes television, healing gets complicated. While the media dissected NXIVM, prosecutors kept digging. There were still questions, still missing money, still crimes that hadn't surfaced. They found offshore accounts, hidden properties, and evidence that NXIVM had reached into politics and business far deeper than anyone imagined. It wasn't just a cult, it was a network, a web of money, power, and silence. And it had taken nearly 20 years to bring it down. For the victims, the justice system was only half the battle. The other half was survival. Many had lost everything: careers, families, reputations. Some were still terrified that Keith's supporters would come after them. Others couldn't shake the guilt of what they'd done to recruit others. Sarah Edmondson said, "I still have nightmares. I see him smiling. I hear his voice telling me I'm broken." India Oxenberg said, "Freedom is strange. I'm learning how to make choices again. Real ones." Their words were heavy, but real. Their pain wasn't cinematic. It was human. Then came the lawsuits, hundreds of them. Victims suing NXIVM leadership for damages. Parents suing for emotional distress. Even local property owners suing for unpaid taxes. The legal ripple spread wide. It wasn't just about one man anymore. It was about accountability. For everyone who helped him, some settled quietly, others dragged on for years. But every document filed was another piece of truth. Another line in a story that refused to be buried. Meanwhile, Keith Raniere wasn't done. From prison, he began communicating with the outside world. He wrote letters, recorded messages, told his followers to stay strong. He claimed the FBI had tampered with evidence, that the branding was feminist empowerment, that he was the victim of a modern witch hunt. He even tried to start a new movement, the Raniere Project. Its goal? To expose corruption and restore justice. But it was a familiar lie, the same one that had trapped so many before. In late 2020, a group of loyalists released a video online. They claimed to have new evidence proving Keith's innocence. It was slickly edited, professionally filmed, funded by anonymous donors. But when investigators reviewed it, they found nothing credible. Just recycled arguments, edited footage, and twisted facts. It was propaganda, plain and simple, and it reminded everyone watching just how deep the indoctrination ran. For the survivors, every new headline was a reminder of their past. A wound reopened, a ghost revived, but they refused to be defined by it. They spoke at universities, at women's conferences, on podcasts and panels. They used their voices, the same voices Keith had once silenced. Sarah said, "I can't erase the scars, but I can make sure no one else gets them." India said, "He wanted obedience. He got resistance." And with every story shared, NXIVM's grip loosened just a little more. But the question still lingered. How did it happen? How did hundreds of people, intelligent, educated, driven, fall under the spell of one man? Experts say it wasn't weakness. It was loneliness. It was the human need to belong. Keith Raniere didn't recruit victims. He recruited believers, and then he rewired what they believed in. That's how he turned compassion into control, trust into terror, love into slavery. By 2022, the NXIVM story had become part of pop culture. Documentaries, books, podcasts, even TV dramas inspired by the case. But beyond the headlines, something more powerful was happening. The survivors were reclaiming their narrative. They weren't just victims anymore. They were teachers, writers, advocates. They were living proof that even after psychological captivity, freedom was possible. One scene stands out from The Vow Part 2. Keith Raniere on a prison phone call says, "I still believe what I taught was good. I regret nothing." The courtroom was silent. You could feel the tension in the air. Every breath felt heavy. Every whisper cut through the quiet like glass. At the center of it all sat Keith Raniere, once called Vanguard. Now he was just another man in a gray suit. But his eyes, those eyes still burned with that same cold fire. The same gaze that had once convinced dozens of women to surrender everything. Their bodies, their money, their minds. But today those eyes faced judgment. The illusion was gone. The mask had shattered. By the time the trial began in 2019, the world had already heard the whispers. Documentaries, headlines, podcasts. Everyone wanted to know, how could a man build a sex cult in plain sight? How did no one stop him? The courtroom was packed. Former members sat shoulder to shoulder. Reporters scribbled notes. Families of victims held each other tight. And Raniere sat still, calm, smug, untouchable. As the prosecutor began, she turned toward the jury. Her voice was clear, measured. Every word landed like a blade. This man called himself a teacher, but he was a predator. He didn't teach empowerment. He built a prison of fear. The jurors stared at Raniere. He smiled, that same confident, eerie smile that had broken so many before. One by one, the women took the stand. Each story was different, but every story echoed the same pain. They spoke of the secret group inside NXIVM, a group Raniere had called DOS, Dominus Obsequious Sororium, Latin for master over slave women. Each woman was forced to recruit others. Each woman had to obey her master. And at the very top of that pyramid was Keith Raniere. They described how it started small. Promises of personal growth. Talks about discipline. Commitment. Then the rules changed. The tone shifted. Soon, they were told they had to give collateral. Nude photos. Confessions. Secrets that could ruin their lives. They didn't know why. They were told it was trust building. But later, they realized it was control. Pure, calculated control. Then came the branding. In a small room, the smell of burning flesh filled the air. Women cried as a doctor etched a symbol into their skin. They thought it was a mark of unity. They didn't know it was Raniere's initials, hidden in the design. When the prosecutor showed the jury pictures of those brands, the courtroom gasped. One juror covered her mouth. Another looked away. He said it would make us strong. One victim whispered through tears. But it made me feel like I was dying inside. The trial also revealed how deep the control went. Raniere had a team of loyalists, women who believed he was a genius. They ran his commands. They kept his secrets. They punished those who disobeyed. Among them was Allison Mack, the former Smallville actress. She sat quietly in court, avoiding Raniere's gaze. She had already pleaded guilty to racketeering and conspiracy, but the damage was done. When she took the stand, she couldn't stop crying. "I thought I was helping women," she said softly. "I thought Keith was helping us find freedom, but I see now, we were slaves, and I helped him do it." Her words hit like a gunshot. Even Raniere blinked, just once. Raniere's lawyers tried to spin the story. They said the relationships were consensual, that the women were adults, that no one was forced. They called it unconventional. They said Raniere believed in radical honesty. But the evidence told a different story. Emails, texts, recordings, all showing how Raniere demanded obedience, how he starved women, controlled who they slept with, made them line up for him like soldiers in a war he invented. and when they tried to leave, he used their secrets against them. The prosecutor called it psychological warfare, and that's exactly what it was. Then came the tapes, audio recordings of Raniere himself, his own voice, cold, calm, commanding. In one recording, he spoke about branding. He said, "It's a tribute, a sacrifice, a symbol that you belong to me." The words hung in the air like poison. Even the judge's expression hardened. The jury didn't move. Some of the women in the gallery started crying silently. That was the moment the myth collapsed. The genius everyone once followed was revealed as a manipulator. A man drunk on power. A man who wanted to own people. After 6 weeks of testimony, it was time. The jury left to deliberate. Hours passed. Then the door opened. They were ready. Everyone stood. Raniere didn't flinch. He looked at the jurors as if daring them to challenge him. "We find the defendant guilty." The words echoed. Guilty on all counts. Sex trafficking, forced labor, conspiracy, racketeering, child exploitation. Each word fell like a hammer. Raniere blinked once, then again, but he said nothing. The women in the gallery began to sob. Some in relief, others in disbelief. After years of fear, the monster was finally caged. Raniere turned to his lawyer. "This isn't over," he whispered. "They'll see. I'm the victim." He still didn't get it. He never would. In 2020, Keith Raniere was sentenced to 120 years in prison. He still calls himself innocent. He still writes letters. Still tries to gather followers from behind bars. Some still believe him. That's the terrifying part. Even with all the proof, some can't let go. That's how deep his spell went. But for the women he hurt, the road to healing has just begun. Many have started new lives. Some changed their names. Some speak out, hoping others never fall into a trap like this again. "It doesn't start with chains," one survivor said. "It starts with trust, with words, with love. Then slowly, they take everything." The story of NXIVM isn't just about a cult. It's about power, control, and how easily good intentions can be twisted into horror. Keith Raniere didn't build his empire on violence. He built it on belief. He made people think they were growing, healing, becoming stronger. But every lesson he taught led them deeper into his grip. Every promise was a lie. Every act of empowerment was submission in disguise. And that's what makes this story so chilling. Could happen again. Could happen anywhere. Because cults don't always look like cults. Sometimes they look like self-help seminars. Sometimes like mentorship programs. Sometimes like love. In prison, Raniere still writes letters. He still has followers who believe he was misunderstood. They call him a thinker, a philosopher, wrongfully accused. But those who escaped know the truth. They remember the fear, the night calls, the burning pain of the brand, the shame that never really fades. One survivor put it best. "He thought he owned us, but he never owned our souls. We took those back." The story of NXIVM is over, but its echoes remain. A warning, a scar, a reminder that evil often hides behind charisma, and obedience can be deadly. Because sometimes, the most dangerous cults don't ask for your money. They ask for your devotion. And once they have that, they take everything else. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.